Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Chaz Henry, and I am the founder of PowerChalk.com. Today I'm joined by Fastpitch softball master coach, Denny Tincher. Coaches, if you don't know Denny Tincher, Denny has put 76 players into Division I college. He's invented his own pitching system, but it's impossible to introduce Denny without referencing his daughter, Angela Tincher. Angela was the 2008 College Player of the Year, and despite being one of only 5 players with 100 wins and 1,000 strikeouts in Division I, she was not selected for the Olympic team that was headed for Beijing. So when the team, who had 185 straight wins and had outscored their opponents 1,475 to 24, invited Angela's Virginia Tech Hokies to come to Oklahoma City for a pre-Olympic exhibition match, Angela returned the favor by no-hitting them. Denny, in this age,
picture because I have some of those big girls that work with me, but the smaller you are, the more perfectly you have to use your body, and sometimes that's an advantage as well. I have a friend who was on the LPGA tour for many years and very successful top 10 golfer. She's not the biggest one out there. I have another friend who was a kicker on in the NFL for a few years. I worked with his daughter. He's not the biggest guy on the team. What they both say is its ability to channel all the energy into the ball. And sometimes that huge frame makes it challenging.
Yeah, it does. You know, and we've just a couple weeks ago with Phil Rosengren, we looked at pitchers, and we were talking drop and drive, and we looked at Randy Johnson. And I don't think you could, you know, take a drop and drive approach and apply it, you know, to someone with Randy's frame. You really got to be true to what you've got and what you've given.
Size is an advantage without question. It's just, okay, if we don't have that, where else can we find the advantage? And one of the things you'll notice on that photo on the screen, Angela's out at the end of the 8-foot circle. She will cross it sometimes. She learned to get such a launch, 8 and 9-foot stride length. That made up for a lot of the difference in size among the competition.
So Denny, let's talk pitching. I asked you last week on the phone what you teach and how you can drive performance and speed and still avoid injury. It seems like that's something that, you know, the harder I ask a kid to throw, you know, the more likely they are to push themselves toward injury. Now, you sent me this bullet list that I've got on the screen, but you also sent me some video of a young girl that you're working with. Tell us, we'll go through these points kind of piece by piece as we illustrate the video, but tell us, if you would, the story of this girl while I load her video.
Well, she came to me back in February of this year. Just had turned 13 years old, I think, at the time, just getting there, and suffering several injuries. She's aggressive, she's excited, she has goals, and if they're seeing the same video I am on the screen at this point, you'll see that there's a lot of things going on in the body where sometimes you're your own worst enemy. You try so hard that you end up putting a lot of stress on parts of the body that are not designed to handle that stress. Therefore, yeah, you're going to hurt, but you're also not going to perform nearly at peak, and that's the whole goal. Is when we reduce injury, when we take a kid that comes in, like I had one call me a couple of days ago crying. I just loved it. She's a high school senior, and she was crying because she had just signed the scholarship of her dreams. So as a sophomore, she had 2 stress fractures in her L5 vertebrae and a torn-up shoulder, and they told her she'd probably never pitch again. And she missed a whole year of softball travel in high school. Once we corrected the movement patterns that caused the pain, then her speed went from, you know, mid-50s to last time I saw her, she was throwing 65, and that was nearly a year ago at a camp. And she's just blasting the ball. Another one called me last night. It was just exciting because she was told at 13 years old she'd never pitch again. The experts and her pitching instructor, you know, the doctor said, "You've got to give this up. You'll never pitch again." We worked with her one day, and she's excited. She called me to say, "Can I put you down on my college references because I'm going to play in college?" That's cool.
Oh, that's a great story. Well, I tell you what, I watched this little girl.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's actually the kid that got me fired up. This has been about 4 years ago, and that's when I got into the medical end of it, started studying and saying, what's going on with these kids. She stoked my fire and got me excited about injuries, and then also what that can do for performance. Because 3 weeks after we gave her that lesson and fixed her injury, she went out and threw her first JV game and threw a no-hitter.
Wow.
that was fun.
Well, and you know, you can't really separate the two because, like I said, the harder you're pushed to do something that's at the edge of your ability, I guess the more you flirt with injury. But so let's talk this girl here. She really gets after it, and you know, to the untrained eye, well, that looks like a good stroke. By the way, the video is kind of rough, but you know, I think the other point that it illustrates is you really don't have to, you know, be able to read the logo on her shirt to look at her mechanics here.
Sometimes we get to looking at too many fine points in the video and we miss the obvious. I want to really look at the core very first thing, and I want to look at positions. I can look at a kid 100 yards away pitching in a ball game and know if it's a serious pitch or not. I don't have to see where the ball is going. I can just tell the body movement. I mean, you're looking at functional movements. So, yeah, she has a great attitude. She's so polite, so smart. The kid's actually skipped a year in school that she's that smart and so driven, but that was partly her enemy.
Well, this looks like a great motion to me, so take me through it. Tell me what you see.
Well, look, first thing we're looking for, just stay right there, we're looking for dynamic power positions. A poor start will have the body compensating throughout the movement. Now, compensation means that muscles that were not designed to handle the load are being called into action, and that's risky. For example, is she in a dynamic start? Well, if you back it up just a little bit, a lot of people think this is a dynamic start, but right now what she'll have to do, because she's down, she's got her heel down, she's bent over like that, her hips are back with the girl. The hips got to be dominant. So she's having trouble with that flat heel, with everything bent. She's going to have trouble getting her hips out, so she has to stand up. Then in that same motion, try to push forward. So we get what we call a shoulder roll. Shoulders are going to try to go backwards while hips try to go forward. She's so confused. Then she has that twist in the beginning where she's twisting her shoulders sideways, trying to cover the ball. Now she's in a real difficult position. It's just not you can look at that and say she's not strong. As you back it up just a second, I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. Back it up just a couple of frames and a little further, right there. If I put my hands on her shoulders right now and stand in front of her, she cannot put 5 pounds of pressure on me. That's a very weak position. Though it's taught, it's a very weak position. And you'll see the compensation as she tries to go forward. But if I put my hands on top of her in front of her, stand in front of her, and push back on her, she can't move me. She can't put any stress on me because she's in a very weak position. She's also pushing off her hamstrings, and girls are quad dominant. Her hamstrings are not going to be her strong suit. The quads are, and they're negated at this point. All right. So as she starts to go forward, what's going to happen is the glove side is going to be, see where it is now. As she goes out, it's going to fly way out to the side because she got a weak start. So the glove's going to try to help her, and it's going to fly or swim. Swim is not a problem. Swim is a result of a problem. So watch that. It will soon go all the way back, even with her body. Go ahead. You're doing great. Go forward, and you'll see the glove. As you go a little further forward, you'll see the glove fly off to her left side. Now, stop right there. What's going to be the result of that? Well, the back leg is back there to try to cause some balance. It's hung. Her hips are very weak, and that's starting to suck her shoulders around, okay? If you notice this kid when she came off the mound, because of her weak start, she couldn't get a full push, so she had to replant or crow hop to try to get that push because she started in a weak position. Once that crow hop occurs, which should not be illegal, it's a disadvantage for female pitchers. Once that occurs, now look where that foot is pointing. It's going to be pointing back to the shortstop at the landing, and she's got to try to figure out how to get that through. Glove tries to help that. Now, as she goes about 2 more frames, you will see, stop right there. Shoulders are facing the catcher. Hips are facing third base. That puts a tremendous stress on the L4 and L5 vertebrae. It also, because when you land in a twist, you're going to hurt your lower back. You do that 100 times a day. But also, look, her shoulder is going to try to carry so much load because she can't get the hips through. Now we're starting to really affect the labrum in the shoulder as well as around the rhomboid, the scapular area, and those are the places that are going to hurt on a pitcher like that the most. So almost all injury is a result of mechanical failure. So those are just a couple of things where the takeoff caused all of that. And you can see that foot is behind her. She's just in a really weak position. All right? So that's the dynamic power position. We didn't start strong. I'm not going to get into what it is. I'm not going to start that debate. You can just tell she was very weak to start with. And you can see, yes, you can see that she does not got a real strong finish, what I call the backslash position. She's really folded. All right? Now, the next thing I guess we'll look at would be the healthy movements. That was the second bullet point. And I want to say, in this case, healthy movement, the brain will sense when you're in a dangerous movement pattern, and it'll try to prevent damage to the body by limiting your speed and power. So we say, why do we fix the injuries, and that makes them more powerful? The brain is protecting the body and saying, whoops, this is probably going to hurt, so I'm going to slow it down, make it easy, because if I try to go too fast, it's like driving fast over speed bumps. One of the illustrations I always use, if you pull into a parking lot and it has speed bumps, you can go 90 miles per hour, but only once because something's going to come apart. So a good example of this is twisting the shoulders before she starts to open. If you back up to that point, I'm going to show you what's going to occur, and it's going to be an unhealthy movement pattern. So go right to where she first gets ready to start off the mound, back a little further, to where she's starting and with her shoulders twisted on back a little bit more. I feel like a director here, a little bit more. So she first starts when she's getting ready to take off the mound. Actually watch when the shoulders actually turn. There. Now see her shoulders are turned. The pitcher needs to have a forward drive, and her shoulders need to be sort of squared to the catcher at that point, because otherwise she's going to have to try to bring the shoulders to get that push. Then she's going to open. Then she's going to bring them back. So what's going to happen in this case is the shoulders start open, closed, then open. They're open. Now she'll start forward, closed. Now they're back to the catcher. Then she's got to turn and open them very quickly. Well, in the meantime, hold it right there. The arm circle has to slow down a whole lot because she's facing sideways, then square, then open. All that has to happen in like an eighth of a second. So she has to slow everything down. The trouble is, if she wants to go fast, she can't make 3 moves with those shoulders. So what she'll do is she goes over the top. The shoulder's going to crunch, and she can suffer injury at the top of the circle. So she slows down to allow that to happen. In that situation where she's stressed and really trying to throw hard, then that shoulder's going to end up crunching and popping. I've had kids that I could hold their arm as they went through a circle and had as many as 7 pops as they went across the circle. So we were able just to correct the movements. In one case, the girl that hit 7 crunches or pops, we were able to get that down to 1 just with a better position. Then we put her on a strength program to get rid of that one. Bad hip and shoulder position also puts the lower back at risk. So the whole time she's got to be very careful with what she's doing. All right.
No, you talk about the shoulder pops. I can do at least 5 or 6 getting a glass of milk these days, Denny. So.
I understand that perfectly. That's why I can identify with these girls, because everything punches and pops these days.
But at 13, I see what you're saying. Boy, again, just from a layman's point of view, that looks like a really strong motion. But I see exactly what you're saying, how she opens, closes, and really tries to do all that while getting a good arm circle going.
And the shoulders flying out, left shoulder flying out, gloves flying out. And right there, you can see that's just not a strong posture. That is a painful finish, and it's not because you wanted to do that. So as we do that, let's go to core stability. In every powerful athletic move, the core must remain stable. The core goes from the top of your knee to your armpit. We must have a stable core. A good example, Chaz, is how often have you seen injuries? Let's take football, because people watch that a lot. How many times do you see a running back or a receiver start to make a move, and the ACL or the hip or something gives out, and the ankle gives out, and they go to the ground? What happened is their core became unbalanced for just a moment. It wasn't strong, it wasn't stable, it wasn't balanced, so they lost their position sense. Position sense is what we're talking about, how the joints know that they should fit and how they should work together. And if you lose that position sense for a minute and then try to make a move, with the core being out of balance, then you're going to blow an ACL, tear up an ankle, or whatever. Core stability, in this case, you can see the core should be, if you draw a line from her armpit to her knee right there, it would help you to get a look at the core. That should be pretty stable all the way through, and that's not terrible to start with at all. Let's go through and see if that core stays in that stable position. Here we see it already. Nope. Now the hips are going one way, the shoulders are going another way, so that core is totally unstable. And as we go through, that's never going to recover because she's going to be fighting to try to get it to happen, but it's not going to do so. And you'll see, go ahead to the finish, and you'll see that core gets very unstable. So again, when that core is unstable right there, you just see it's twisted in many directions and it's folding. When that core is unstable, then the position sense that your joints have, the major joints like your knee and your ankle in an athletic move, and even elbow, shoulder, a lot of things go out of place because they're trying to balance an improper move. So core stability is what we're looking for. I want that to be stable throughout the pitch. Functional symmetry. What happens on one quadrant will enhance or inhibit the proper functioning of the other quadrants. So if that left arm flies out, how can the right side be balanced? If we're taking off and replanting or weak, for instance, that front leg's all locked out, back leg's got to lock out. A lot of things got to happen. So again, functional symmetry means we lose our position sense. We can't align the joints as they were designed for speed and power. So we're always looking, what does the left side have to do with the right leg? What does the left arm, what does the right arm have to do with the left leg? And what do both legs have to do with each other? Quadrants, you know, we're symmetrical in the way we work. So we're talking about keeping those working together. We call it functional symmetry. That's really as much as I need to say about that. Whatever happens on one side, we're constantly looking for balance. The body seeks balance. Fluid energy transfer. Elite athletes in every sport are smooth, balanced, efficient, and graceful. I love to use the example. Look at Tiger Woods hit a golf ball. It looks like he's doing nothing. He has a great ability to channel energy in ways that seem effortless. Look at a great kicker. I love the game of golf because it illustrates hips really smooth in the upper body. Football kicker. Like I said, a friend of mine was an NFL kicker, and I worked with his daughter. And he said, I can channel everything into the ball. And if you look at a great kicker, they follow through long after the ball is gone. That leg is still doing the work. Lack of follow-through, and you'll see it here with this kid, go into the end and watch the lack of follow-through. That's an indication of problems, and those happened way before she got to this point. But see how she stops, jerks back, everything's just stuck right there. The arm is really stiff. Tension is the enemy of speed. Lack of follow-through is an indication of problems addressed earlier. So we're not getting a fluid energy transfer, all right? And you're also seeing, yeah, instead of landing in a backslash, she's in a parentheses, all right? So that's all we have to say about that part of it. The next one is proper strength and flexibility. One of the things we did after I assessed her, I realized we had some hip flexibility issues and some problems in the scapular area. I worked with one of the best strength trainers, I think, in the world, and I had him assess her to make sure it was right, and we put her on strength programs. A particular problem to female pitchers is that they get out of balance very quickly, and they have a lot of flexibility problems, and that inhibits proper movement patterns. They can try, but sometimes they can't. For instance, with this girl, the lack of flexibility means she couldn't open properly, so she had to twist to try to get us probably start, and then she had to close in back. It also puts the knee and ankle at risk. If you look at her landing, take a look at that landing as that front foot plants right there, and watch that tries to roll up, and she's really trying to keep from letting that ankle roll, and that's putting a lot of stress on the knee. So that was partly lack of strength and flexibility. So we put her on a strength program, and within just a month, we saw a huge difference. Also, see the shoulders collapsing at finish. She loses her strong posture. That's proper strength and flexibility. But it's also movement patterns. I'll say we check the movement pattern first. If that's good, then we take the kid into an assessment program and see if she has the proper strength to do what's right. Now, the most common injury. Yes, go ahead.
You raised a good point there, Denny, because you know, when I'm working with my golf coach, you know, I pretty soon realized that some of the things he was showing me as optimal moves, I really wasn't in a position or, you know, wasn't in a physical condition to do. So we had to go backwards. We had to go kind of retool and get in a position to make the moves he was asking me to make. So, you know, a lot of times, especially with the video analysis side, you know, people focus on here's optimum mechanics, and then the first question is, can my athlete do that?
And now I've been tearing this kid apart for 15 minutes. Let me tell you the rest of the story. Here's a picture after 7 months of working with her. Here's a video. And I will tell you, 13 years old, brilliant, driven, did what we asked 100%. Here's the pitch today. Look how much stronger she is. Look, we start with that dynamic start. She is firing off the mound, okay? Really powerful. You'll see healthy movements. Everything's smooth. Still two things we're working on, and that's that smoother finish. Core stability is awesome with the girl. Fluid energy transfer. She got the back leg all the way through. Everything finished with power. Great follow-through, so to speak. Everything except just a couple of little things that I'm still going to design and work on, and that's back foot position, and that's a little better follow-through with the arm, and that's what we're working on today. But, and this is a new improved body. Just after 7 months, I want to tell you what happened with this girl, though. Everything went crazy. Speed, movement, everything. And this is the youngest kid I've had that got a Division I college scholarship to pitch in softball.
Good
13 years old.
Good
and
for her.
I am so extremely proud of this girl. She just did everything we could have asked. And every once in a while I have to look at her and say, listen, we have 4 years. Don't be in too big of a hurry. She's so driven. I say, I have a 4-year plan for you. Relax and let me finish. Look how far we've come in 7 months. And the other day I had a kid that was struggling with some of these same things, brand new. I said, come over and talk to her. She went over and said, just trust him. Just trust him. Let him bring you along. He knows where he's taking you. You can't see around corners yet. Most common injuries, by the way, just so you can have that, Chaz, improper strength training or weightlifting. We have more kids get injured trying to get in shape with people who aren't necessarily qualified to teach them. We don't want girls doing bench presses, overheads, unless you have an extremely qualified functional movement type of trainer. I'm talking degree people. I do not want kids lifting steel unless the person has incredibly advanced degrees. Shoulder and labrum area, that's the most common place we're injured, between the scaps, around the rhomboid, even under the scaps, somewhere back in those areas. Upper back, in other words, around the scapular, which are the shoulder blades. Lower back then, knees and ankles. All those are generally movement pattern related. Even if they slide into second base, I started to say first base, I don't guess we slide there. Sliding into second base quite often will hurt a knee or whatever. A lot of times that was just lack of flexibility. So strength and flexibility are critical. So that's basically it.
Well, you know what I see right away. Let's kind of take a look at her. We're coming up on the 20-minute mark, so I want to open it up for some questions. But right away I see that she's going straight to the batter. So she's not jumping off to the side. And like you said, that's the the symmetry with the gloves. Her glove is not taking her over toward first base.
Right.
And she's also dragging that foot, which I guess keeps her more grounded and I guess a little more stable through.
She's pushing herself through instead of replanting. She got a dynamic start, so she didn't have the foot left behind. Now, those are the two things we're still working on. I want that back leg a little more aggressive. I want to change the foot position a little bit, and I want to get that left arm a little bit improved. I want to get the follow-through a little more sweet at the end, not jerky. But if we've come this far in 7 months, we're thrilled. And like I said, I still got 4 years before she'll be pitching in college at age 17. That's amazing.
Yeah, you know what, you make a point here that I think we just keep seeing over and over, whether we're talking about kickers or golfers or baseball players. And you said earlier, it really comes from the ground up and it comes from the very start. So, right away you said earlier something about jumping a pond, or jumping a creek. And I see right away she's much more athletic and she's getting in a much better position, to be square as she starts that drive.
Yeah, we've done a lot of research and a ton of testing. We've spent months in the lab working on what is the most powerful position to get off, and it's not obvious. You're not going to see it from what you're seeing on the video. But yeah, we spend a lot of time studying what is the most effective position for power, for speed off the mound. Also, shoulders, lower back, core, back leg, a lot of things like that. So those are things we're still cleaning up with her. But I say after 7 months, I could not be more pleased with this one. Well,
that's very dramatic, and I think it's very visual, the differences. And like you said, she's not opening, closing, and opening. It really is just kind of a square, very intentional, drive right toward the arm circle and a great release. Now, the other thing that I see just visually right off the bat is, we talked about the parentheses. There's the backslash that you talked about.
Yes, exactly. Everything is in a power position. We started with a backslash. We finished a backslash. I want parentheses on either end.
Well, Sandy Koufax said that he felt like his front leg was really a pole vault, and it's what he stabs it into the ground so he can rotate around it. And there you go.
Good point.
Okay, with that, let me open it up for questions. Coaches, if you've got questions, you've got a question pod in your control panel. And let me go ahead and just throw the first one at you, Denny, from Teresa. My daughter is starting to feel pain in her pitching. What do we do first?
First of all, I need to know where the pain is. First, I'm going to check movement pattern. Get somebody very, very, very qualified. We have instructors around the country. I'm not knocking other instructors, but ours are we do a lot of training in this area. Check the movement pattern. I'll be glad to look at a video as I can get time to do it. I'll be glad to take a quick look at the video. I'd like to see one pitch from the open side, just very close, fingers to touch, just one fastball. I'd like to see one from behind, up close. Then I'm able to spot where it's at. So we check the movement pattern first. Second, when we're not sure if that's perfect, then I used to send them to chiropractic, because chiropractic is huge in major universities anymore. And just a little something out of place, a vertebrae out of place, something in the shoulder, a lot of times they can adjust that, pain goes away immediately. Then you're going to need a therapist or a great trainer to hold it in place, a functional movement screening type of therapist or trainer. Some at advanced degrees builds the muscles to hold it in place. If you still have the pain, then that's when we start looking at going to an orthopedic type of doctor. But we want to try to fix the movement or what's causing it, or we haven't gained anything. Just getting ice, rest, and ibuprofen is only good if we're going to fix the movement afterwards.
Teresa, there's a great opening right there, and I've gone over to Denny's website, tincherpitching.com. If you send Denny a video, that's a great offer to take a quick look and start from there. So next question, Robert. Denny, how much of your training is pitching performance versus injury avoidance?
70% of the kids who come to us from around the nation, and I travel all the time. I mean, I'll be going from, I don't even know where I'm at. I mean, northern Maryland to Minnesota to Atlanta. 70% of the kids come because they're 13 through college age, no longer getting better. They've hit a plateau, and that's who we deal with. When we get to talking to them, we find out a lot of them have pain that they didn't realize was not normal. They thought that was normal. But about 30% of the kids come to me from around the country, and they're injured somewhere. It's hurting somewhere. A lot of them have been told to never pitch again. I've taken 2 or 3 off in the last year. I've taken 2 or 3 off the operating table. Got them before within, one of them was 2 weeks from surgery when she came to see me, and that was when the end of her career. She went on to pitching college. So about 30% of them come in with obvious injuries or problems. We've been able to save them so far, but that streak will end sooner or later.
Well, I tell you, like I said, there's a lot of parallels in all this with my golf game. Certainly, we've all seen Tiger Woods go through a spell where his back, really became the limiting factor to his game. So, I can't say enough, and I appreciate you coming on and taking us through this, Denny. But I can't say enough that to the parents out there, you've got to have your stroke, your swing, your punch, your kick, looked at by a pro at some point, and make sure you're not doing what I did, in my golf game, which was, out there pounding balls and grooving, absolutely grooving a bad swing. So, with that, let me thank the coaches for tuning in today. Denny, I appreciate your time and your insights. That's our time today. I hope we've provided some insight into injury prevention, that we've provoked some thought during this sessions. These webinars are posted at getbetterfaster.tv. That's a new website that we've put up to house these web sessions. But you'll notice up in the corner there's a subscribe button, and I'd like you to invite your fellow coaches, your parents, your players to subscribe to this series. Join the series, follow along with us. And so for me, for Denny Tincher, my guest today, we thank you for tuning in.